Welcome aboard the Spirits Operator podcast. I'm your host, Psychic Medium Mary B. Join me as we navigate the ethereal currents between the mystical and the mundane. Get ready to explore the unseen forces shaping our world and discover how to harness their power for personal growth, healing, and transformation. Welcome, listeners, to the second season of the Spirits Operator podcast, titled Earth to Essence. This season is dedicated to helping you understand and embrace your empathic abilities. Join us as we explore powerful self-care strategies and learn to set healthy boundaries that honor your needs. I'm excited to introduce the first of today's 4 special guests, each possessing talents that transcend the ordinary. Tashiko is a gifted tattoo artist and spiritual medium, seamlessly blending creativity with spirituality. Tashiko connects deeply with her clients, offering them not only beautiful body art, but also profound spiritual insights. Her unique ability to channel emotions and energies into her art makes each piece profoundly personal and meaningful. Thank you, Tashiko, for being here today. We are so excited to hear how you handle the energies that you're immersed in every day.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a delight to be here. And I can't wait to chat with you about all of this wonderful subject.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, you are a tattoo artist, but that's not how this started out. So kind of tell me a little bit where you started in your empath abilities and kind of how you've harnessed that energy.
Wow, how far do you go back into your childhood traumas?
Oh, man.
But I suppose, there is that big crossover of people understanding that our family home creates our awareness and our need to be able to read energy. So if you come from a troubled home, then quite often you need to have a far sharper focus to be able to read energies and be able to suss those subtle differences, facial expressions, changes in mood. And so I think definitely that was a big component coming in. But my love and my interest in spirituality really emerged in my early teens with finding crystals and this wonderful bookshop, and then moving into Reiki, which was probably about 20 years ago now that I started my first level 1 and level 2 fairly close to each other. And
wow, that's awesome.
And then in my process throughout all of these years, I've just completed part of my mastership last year. So yeah, I'm really excited to continue the Reiki journey, and that's
a huge
definitely
achievement.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to be doing some more study soon, so I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, I really love the way that Reiki harnesses so many things. It's so many of our spiritual understanding of our physical body's needs, our emotional needs, ourselves as spirit moving through the world. It kind of encompasses all of these things, and it really flowed into my tattoo work as well. Like many years later, as I began to learn to tattoo, well, you have your hands on people all the time, and so naturally the energy's flowing always. And I think that certainly makes for perhaps an easier barometer to be able to read clients as they're laying there and suss what they need and if they're comfortable. And you're constantly reading that from your hands and just from your empathic abilities.
Well, yeah, especially since you've, of course, your awareness is heightened, and then adding in, perfecting that ability through Reiki, and then taking it into I would say something a little bit different, and adding it into art, but on body art. I mean, that's got to be a wild experience, especially, you're also a medium. So, coming from another medium, I can tell you, I know whenever I get massages or whenever I've had tattoos done, I mean, I know that I connect and it's instant, even if you're not trying. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I guess I'm fortunate in the fact that my mediumship work has kind of expanded well, look, it was expanding during that time, but it's really kind of, crescendoed now a little bit later on. So I'm kind of grateful that I wasn't like tapping in really heavily all the time to every tattoo client.
Yeah.
And then yet I can probably say that I probably also did and didn't know how much I was actually tapping in at the time. So yeah,
Right.
it's an interesting thing of trying to watch your levels, and trying to read what you
Yes.
read, and yeah, just when you're tattooing also though, you have another task at hand. It's like you can be receiving all of this incredible information coming off them, but you also have a
Hmm.
task to do. So, and you do need
So
to
your
get that
human is
finished.
doing work while your spirit is doing the
Yeah.
other work.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
You're,
Yeah,
you're
but
a
I
great
did find,
multitasker.
oh, I try. But I did find that sometimes in conversations, I would realize that I'm speaking, and I would realize that it's somewhat of a channeled experience, that I'm talking to my client and then I'm witnessing what I'm saying at the same time. So it was sort of,
Whoa.
I'm aware that my spiritual really wove into those experiences, but very much in that sharing, not necessarily just in the touch, in the physical activity of it all, but in the weaving of that whole, the whole experience with them, very much
Wow.
emotionally. Mm.
I can only, right now, just sitting here thinking about doing something like that, I can only imagine how that can be um, exciting and maybe even overwhelming to an empath themselves. As that energy kind of floods in, you're feeling their fear, you're feeling their pain. Possibly, it just depends on what level of empathy or what type of empathy you're tapping into, and it's got to be a little bit, you've got to have a balance here. So what do you do to protect your energy, while remaining open and receptive during those types of sessions, either tattooing or in your mediumship?
Yeah, I think I've got to remember always, and I have a tattoo to remember this, that gratitude is a huge component to this process. So I'll turn my hands around so you can see the other side. But basically, I have a gratitude tattoo that is, if I put my hands in prayer, that is one of my big reminders to come back to self, and
Mm.
to really be able to harness and work with that energy well. I also have, I'm not sure if you can see here beside me, but I have gratitude altars. So I have crystals and bits and pieces around that I often work with as well. I usually use a lot of Palo Santo
Hmm.
rather than sage. It's just something about the sweetness of the smell that I love.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Yeah, it's
Oh yeah.
delicious. And of course Reiki. One of the beautiful things about Reiki is you can gift it to yourself. You can create a little bubble to sit in. I can
Hmm.
Reiki the chair that my client's going to sit in. I can Reiki the room. I can Reiki the water that I dip into. I can Reiki the inks that are holding, the fluid that is going to be
Wow.
moving into the body. I can Reiki
Yes.
everything that's in there. I can sage it and smudge it with Palo Santo, and I can do all of that work, and I would often do that work before the client was involved.
Oh
And
my
that
gosh.
being said, I could feel their anxiety coming in anyway. So it was like
Yes.
lots of trying to clear and be present to the grounding of that work, rather
Yeah.
than feeding too much into, yes, I can feel that they're nervous, yes, I can feel that they're awkward, that like whatever's coming up for them. And then
Hmm.
generally, as soon as they get in and get settled and my hands get on them, then they're like, oh, this ain't so bad. So,
Look
and
at
it likes to
that.
settle down. Yeah.
Well, I love that because I had never even thought of adding, that energy to the water, to the ink, because as we know, there's been scientific studies that show that when you are sending that positive energy to water, to liquid, that it creates a very beautiful fractal pattern that is of the light. It's
Yes,
very loving. And so
absolutely.
that makes sense. I mean, what an epiphany.
Yeah. And look,
That's so cool.
I cleanse my tattoo machine. I give thanks to the exchange as well. Like if I'm gifted money, I also sage that, or, smudge that. And, there is a really big gratitude process that goes into it. And I feel that when I'm gifted that information of sharing with them too, that's a really beautiful thing to be humble about, and honor that I've had a beautiful time to share with someone who opens up so deeply, because they really do. It's a physical practice, it's a emotional practice, and it's a spiritual practice.
Wow, I really love this. It adds a whole nother level to, to body art, to your abilities, to an empath working in the world, and how you can navigate that. So now, with all the energy work that you do, real quick here, do you have any recommendations or methods that you can give to our listeners to help them recharge or ground their energy, something that you use as a ritual?
Oh, definitely. I think one of the first things and one of the easiest things, wash your hands. Like literally water and the flow of water is so important, and it's so easy. It's so easy to access. Just go over to the sink and wash your hands. And there's a big part of that letting go that, like to really just not only be in the physical moment of, the cleanliness, but also in the spiritual moment of, allowing that excess energy to wash away. But other than that, I get outside as best I can. Like I love to be in nature, and I love taking macro photos of tiny mushrooms and bits and pieces. And I feel that that is that's a really beautiful way for me to ground my energy and really slow down, because I have to actually, uh, you know, almost stop breathing sometimes when I go to focus in on something that's so tiny. I have
Mm-hmm.
to really still and really focus. And if I shake, then my photograph will be no good. So I have to really be very, very centered and still. And there's sometimes just nothing better than being outside, feeling the sun on your skin and listening to the birds. And that allows so much more spaciousness around
Yeah.
letting go of these emotional entanglements, and allowing what is theirs to be theirs, and return back to what is yours.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm a big nature person myself, and I find that that is a wonderful way to heal through, through anything really, is to kind of get out there, right? But on that daily basis, doing those things are intensely grounding. So that's
Yeah,
fabulous.
absolutely. And of course, Reiki all the time, because Reiki is regardless of time or space. And if you can't get outside, then, do some self-healing process and call in a lot of light and a lot of love, and, put on some beautiful music and help shift your mood and your vibration purely through
Mm.
sound. That's another wonderful way that when you can't make it outside and be immersed in that natural sound and natural light, yeah, you can fake it till you make it with some good tunes.
That is so true. That is, yeah. I mean, there's many times where I've led to that and jumped in and changed my whole outlook at things just by what I'm listening to. So that's a great
Yeah,
tip. Oh, I think our
yeah,
listeners will be happy to tune into that too. So thank
absolutely.
you so much. I know this is a brief one today, but hopefully we can have you in the future. So
I'd be
uh,
delighted to. So grateful to talk to you today. Thank you.
thank you, Tashiko. Now, I wanted to let our listeners know where they can follow you and your work. And let's see, make sure I have this right. So,
Instagram .com/Tashiko. And if you want to have a look at my mediumistic work, my energy stuff, usually some forest photos as well, then you can go to Instagram.com/Tashiko Temple is my other space.
perfect. Our guests can also contact you via your email at tashikotemple@gmail.com. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. All right. And that's TASHIKOTEMPLE @gmail.com. So
Perfect.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much again. We really appreciate you coming and talking to us today about being an empath.
Thank you. It's been a delight.
Hello and welcome. We are grateful to have Andrea as our second guest for today's short story episode on empaths. Andrea is a compassionate widow and dedicated stay-at-home mom who has transformed her empathic nature into a source of healing and creativity. As a shamanic healer and visionary artist, she uses her intuitive gifts to guide others on their spiritual journeys, while her art reflects the depth of her emotional experiences and spiritual insights. So welcome to the podcast, Andrea.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mary.
I'm excited to talk to you today. I know we were chatting a little bit before we started and just getting to know you and your little doggy next to you, your little helper.
Thank you.
Little holding space. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit more about, you told me that you grew up in Oregon and you've been a highly sensitive person your whole life and have been navigating that. So can you tell me a little bit about how your growing up has gone? How you found yourself through your nature?
Yes, absolutely. So I have always been, I feel like I've felt intensely since I was a kid, like an infant. I know my parents said that they struggled a lot with me because I was always crying. And the more I reflect on it, I'm like, well, I think I was crying because I was really uncomfortable in the body. And so I feel like the more layers that I've been able to pull back, I realize why I cried so much is because I really could feel like, and as I say that, I have to take like a big deep breath because I really do feel intensely. And I remember as a child, my parents took me to Mexico on one of our like mini family road trips, and they took me to see like a medicine man to do a cleanse on me because they were like, why is she always crying? And I don't really know. I don't remember much of the cleanse, but it was a bit humiliating because I had to like be bathed in cow's milk at my grandpa's farm, and like it was a lot. Cause and so to
Wow.
be to be that like too much for my parents was a lot. And actually this morning I was reflecting, I'm like, I'm so thankful for them and for like my upbringing and holding space for me to be able to, I don't know, to be here because
Yeah.
like I could just feel everything, and but like deeply rooted feelings, you know. And so I think I shut it down. I don't know at what age. Maybe it was after that cleansing rites or, you know, whatever that was. But I shut it down, and then it became like I couldn't feel anything at all. I felt very numb. And I tapped into substance abuse in my teens
I was
to,
just going to ask about that because, a lot of people, when they are feeling like it's a last resort or they don't want to feel anymore, that they
yeah,
lean to that.
absolutely. I started with like cannabis and at 13 and then kind of went into other things. I tried coke and meth. Those didn't really work for me because I was already really intense individual. So that I'm like,
Just
oh,
added to the intensity.
yeah, I'm like, you just make me feel like how I feel already. So like that doesn't
That
really
isn't
help.
working, right?
Yeah, but it was cannabis that was for so long. Like I know it helps people like feel high. For me, it helped me feel grounded. It helped me feel like I was here and not so up here where I always feel like I'm at because of how intensely I feel. And I was connecting to a shamanic therapist like 3 years ago, and they described it well. It was like I felt like a whale in a sea turtle's body. Like my energy was
Oh,
just too big for this tiny vessel, and that energy could just feel everything. So I
wow.
guess I struggled a lot growing up and put my parents through a lot with that
Well, it sounds
sensitivity.
like you picked the right parents. I know we choose our family in the spirit realm. That's my belief on it, that we choose our parents, and you chose wisely. It sounds like that they were there to guide you in the best way they could with with what they had. And the immediate thought that I have is that maybe you haven't been on Earth a lot. And
Yeah.
and that you're such a high vibrational being coming into a body, like your shamanic healer said, that you're coming into this space that's a lot different than what you were used to. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how you're adjusting to that. And obviously there was through the teen years sound a little bit like it was a struggle, but that's but obviously you're here today, so
Yeah.
that's intense.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. I could actually align to that. And like I feel that I'm here now. Like for once I actually feel like I'm in the body and I'm like, cool. It doesn't feel as bad because I've learned so much on how to handle the energies, or not handle, but work with them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you
Yes,
for that.
being no, yeah, you're doing great. I mean, this is going to be really helpful for people, because I know there's a lot of people that are feeling that same way, where they don't know what to do, and they do lean towards substance abuse, or they do try to drown themselves in material things, or addictions, and try to avoid that feeling. So you've gone through a lot, and I know, as we mentioned, you are a widow and you're a mother,
Hmm.
and so on top of all of this, you've gone through some very strong grief. And
Yeah.
being an empath, how did you handle that?
Um, Honestly, my connection to the earth. So that's where like the shamanism plays, as tapping into or helping the alignment of the mind, body, spirit. So like the meditation was really important for me. Solitude is really important for me. I stopped people pleasing. I did
Mm,
put I did tap into a lot of cannabis after my husband passed, and then it became a point where I was like, wait, I'm not healing anymore. This is now just like, I'm just now abusing this. I'm not sitting in ceremony with this.
mm-hmm.
So getting sober actually helped me significantly, being like, okay, let's take the wheel on the self-care. Let's start setting boundaries. Let's start, honestly, the biggest key point that I could say is just connecting to the earth. Like I've been touching trees more. I've been hugging them more. I used to have a really hard time envisioning the tree grounding meditation. Now it's there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I've got the roots down, and I've got my roots going up. Got it, like, or not my roots, but my branches. And so it is that. And then also the creativity. Like if I'm feeling
Yes.
too much, I need to create. It's one of my favorite ways to channel.
Well,
Um,
let's talk about that, because I think people forget that creativity is our nature. Like, we are creators, right? And
right.
that makes sense that we would use that to heal. So how do you incorporate your healing with that?
So honestly, it's with everything. It's that, like, once that creator being woke up inside of me through trauma, through the grief, through honestly hitting rock bottom. Like when my husband passed, I felt like this giant curtain was pulled, kind of like the veil. And it was like, whew,
Yeah.
it exposed me to a lot. And I was like, oh, got it. These are the areas I need to be working on. So, um, anytime or that's when I awoken that creator being inside, because, or was awoken, sorry.
Yeah.
I felt the need to create any which way. And that's like doodling. It's I take crayons and coloring books with me if we go to a restaurant, you know, like I'll be doodling on napkins. I create with food, you know, I create flower arrangements. I need to create, you know, and my favorite way,
Yes.
honestly, is just painting. And
Mm,
the painting is childlike too. It's not like, you know, I mean, it is extraordinary to me, but it's not like, you know, I guess like adultish
a
painting
Da
to me.
Vinci.
It's not a Da Vinci, yeah, but it is a mini
That's
Da Vinci to
okay.
me.
No, you shared your art with me and I felt it. I mean, literally looking at your art and I could feel so much from it and just the love and the passion. And it was like, I felt my heart go, oh my goodness, you know, so it doesn't have to be that way. And that's something that I think people miss the point,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, it's like just show
So,
up and have fun. That's actually one thing I've learned too, is just to how I've been working on healing my inner child these last few years. And it's like when I finally made space to connect with her, she's like, hey, why don't we just paint? Like, don't
yes.
worry about anything else. Can we just paint? And you don't need fancy paint sets and fancy paint. Honestly, I paint a lot of my fun stuff on paper bags because I'm like, whoa, you could reuse this paper bag and just make it a canvas. And so a lot of it is on the back of a grocery bag, and the
That's
material's
cool.
perfect. So, and I think that's her. That's my little girl self being like, I just want you to make time for me. And that's
Yeah.
the healing part of it. So honestly, I feel the most connected to source and myself just painting and just having fun. No expectations, no, not expecting things to be perfect or anything like that. I kind of like dismissed all that. I'm like, I'm just here to be.
What would you say as an empath is a great way to handle your empathy, to, the best practices?
Okay, so my favorite is so what I like to do in the morning is start with GCP, which is ground, clear, protect. That's just like instantly. The moment I get up, that's what I got to do in meditation. If I'm um if I'm struggling with visualization, I call in, like I do prayer. I always pray, but like I'll call in my guides and angels, and because we don't have to do things alone, so I'll just be like, hey, I'm not feeling the best. Can you guys just shield me? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Connecting to nature, and I've been setting the intention to just speak my protections into existence. So I'll just be like, shield on. And when I say shield on, I envision this giant shield around me. And then if I'm
Yeah.
going places, I'll just say observe. So like I just go into observe mode and I'm literally just speaking it out loud. And so I'm observing and not absorbing. And so I make sure
I
I'm
love that.
constantly telling myself that is like, observe, you're here to observe. Like, because I feel like we're computers. And so, like, kind of like Tony Stark when he's talking to Jarvis, like, that's like, I'm Jarvis, you know, but I'm Tony Stark too.
Yes, this command, you're telling the suit to do the things, but yet you're like, I'm experiencing it all.
Exactly. So those are actually my favorite because I share them with my kids. I share them with my
Mm.
nieces and nephews. I share them with people that I work with. I'm like, dude, just say it. Just set the intention that when you speak it, because words are magic, that you're doing this, like that it's working for you because you said it. Um,
Yes. Oh,
and I mean, honestly, what I've been doing a lot is the Epsom salt baths, which have been just game
okay.
changers for me. So that's just another form of like self-care when it comes to feeling so much from the world and stuff. So
I hear that. My husband will go, I think you might need some time. Maybe you should take a
yeah.
bath. And I'm like, you are right. I'm taking
Yes.
that cue, my dear.
No, our family knows when it's like my daughter too. She's like, Mom, I think you need some alone time. I'm like, you're right. Like shaking
I
from the
love that
intensity.
so much. Yeah, I love that our families are like, they recognize it. And, then they learn from you and they grow from that too. And to become, you know, aware of other people's experiences and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's great advice. I'm taking notes
Good,
because
good.
anything that can help other people, myself, I'm taking it. So I hope that our listeners have written some things down from your your advice. And I know it's
Awesome.
short, but it is sweet. And I'm so grateful for your time today on this journey. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I'm so honored to be here and to be of service to the collective. Thank you so much for holding the space.
Well, thank you. I wanted to say if our listeners are looking to follow or connect with you, where would you direct them?
My Instagram account, which is Indigenous Lightwork at Instagram.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Indigenous Lightwork. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Perfect. And I'm going to
Yay.
link that in the show notes as well. So if anybody
Sweet.
wanted to go that direction. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. I
Appreciate
appreciate you. Thank
it.
you.
Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. I am delighted to welcome Lyndsey as our third guest for today's short story episode on empaths. Lyndsey is a devoted mother who is passionate about raising her 3 young children to understand and embrace their empathic abilities. Through her nurturing guidance, she fosters a home environment where she teaches them how to balance and protect their energy. She is committed to teaching these important life skills to her children daily so they can navigate this life with confidence. Additionally, Lyndsey is a meditation creator, teacher, and business owner of the company The Meditation Mama, incorporating mindfulness practices into her family's routine, as well as helping others expand their connection within. Lyndsey is deepening her commitment to supporting others in raising empathic children with her new podcast, the Starseed Parenting Podcast, launching this summer. So we're really excited to have you today, Lyndsey. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, in some conversations that we had before we got on this podcast today, you mentioned that you had some challenges growing up as an empath yourself. And I know this is very likely a huge motivator for you to give your own children tools. So can you tell me a little bit about how it was for you growing up as an empath?
Sure. I was a highly sensitive child. I've always been very clairsentient. So clairsentient, I didn't realize I was clairsentient because it was just normal. That I can feel the energy of people, places, animals, you name it. And I would really take that on as my own without realizing it wasn't my own. And back then, in the 80s, we didn't have the tools or the resources to really understand empathicness. My mother's very sensitive, very sweet, so she was very patient with me, but it was very challenging because I wouldn't understand why I would feel a certain way with one person and a different way with another, and I was kind of like a chameleon in a sense, because I was always just picking up everyone else's energy and not really knowing what my own was.
That's so hard because you're trying to fit in, as a kid and trying to, well, automatically being the chameleon and not really knowing exactly what was happening. That's already very difficult to do as a child, and then adding that in. So how did you navigate that? How did you get through that?
Well, my mother helped me a lot, but quite honestly, as I got older into my teenage years, I started numbing because it was just too much. It was too intense. So I started drinking a lot, and that continued really all through my 20s because I just couldn't feel things so intensely. It was just too much for me. So it really took, for me, a really difficult relationship in my mid-20s, where afterwards I started therapy and we really just started unpacking everything. It was kind of the beginning of my shadow work, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
That's important.
Yeah, but I still didn't fully understand it really until I had children. That's when it all kind of came together for me.
Okay, so tell me how that came to? How did you realize that your children were empathic, and how did that unfold?
So they're little mirrors, right? They're little tiny versions of you in a lot of ways. And my kids, of course, they're possibly more sensitive than I am. From the moment I have 3 children. From the moment my middle was born, you couldn't set her down in the crib. She had to be on me all day long for 4 months straight.
Wow.
My son, when he was a toddler, he would just cry and cry and cry for an hour after being in a group of people or a really big toddler class or any kind of bigger environment.
So you're like, aha.
Mm-hmm. So all the little clues started coming together. So for me, I knew I was an empath, but it really kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle together because I had to figure it out for them.
Yes, they were, I guess, guiding you in their own way, right?
Very much so.
That's really special.
Yeah. And you would see it too when they were with their friends, and you'll notice one child starts crying and then right next to them, the other child starts crying. And you're just realizing, they're just picking up on each other's energy because there was no reason for my child to start crying. So that's a big thing in our house we talk about now. We say his feelings are not your feelings or her feelings are not your feelings, and kind of separate the two because that was such a challenge for me.
Oh, I have to do that now. I mean, as an adult, I have to go, wait a minute, this is not mine. Oh, yeah.
Me too. I take an inventory every single day, especially after I'm in a crowd of people.
Makes sense. I mean, I can say, I'm more of an armored empath, but the people I do feel are usually my family, the close people that are really close to me. I don't have as much of that when I go out in crowds, but I understand it. And I can see it, how it can debilitate you if you're not able to, I guess, shield yourself in a way, and I think that's where it's important to learn that. And so when we're looking at our children, so as parents, and even applying to an adult, what can other parents look to do to help support their children? And then it's recognizing, now you've already mentioned that, like recognizing other people's energy being theirs, and yours being yours. What else can you point out for them?
I think a big part of it for me, I almost had to reparent my own little inner child because the tantrums and the sensitivity, it can be a lot for the parent on their nervous system. So for me, I had to work on that for myself. My capacity to hold space has expanded exponentially with each child. What was a big deal with the first rolls off my back with the third. But just knowing that you're going to have to reparent yourself is part of it. When I learned energy healing practices, that was one of the most incredible things that I could do for myself. And now I use that on my children. So when they get home from school, we'll say, I release any energy that is not mine. I call back all my power to me now. Every single day. That's a non-negotiable. They know we do it after school. I do energy cleansing baths with them. I'll put in like quartz crystal and amethyst and maybe a little Epsom salt, clear their energy at the end of the day. We will create a bubble of protection. So I'll say, what color do you want your bubble to be to get today? And we'll create a bubble of protection where they go to school, or sometimes I just do it on my own and just say, any energy that you don't want is going to just bounce off this bubble and you're not going to take it on as your own. So those are some of the great energy healing practices we do.
I love that. And it's so visual and so much fun to kind of imagine those colors and to wash everything off and have a physical type of practice that is recognizable to children, and to adults. I mean, take this on, guys, because it's not just for kids. It's a great way to explain it to kids, but it is for all of us,
Absolutely. And I talked a lot about how, for me, I felt like having this high sensitivity, it was to my detriment. I felt like I couldn't control it and it was so intense and it was too much. And now I'm like, this is my superpower and this is their superpower. So that's what we say. We say that's what I tell them. I say, you're highly sensitive. You feel very deeply. Not everyone feels as deeply as you do, and that's okay. We're all different. But I want you to know that's your superpower. And so I want them to know that from the moment, they're 6, almost 4 and 2. So I'm really trying to ingrain that in them.
So when you use your superpowers, how do you use them?
Now I have the know-how of how much do I want to take in? Do I want to feel this so deeply? Do I want to feel someone else's? I can hold space, but I don't have to take it on as mine now. So I think that's been a huge key for me.
Yes. And you can look at somebody and help them without, like taking it on, but also guide them through it, walk them through the path that they need to go. Is that, yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. And if I know I'm going to be in a situation where it's unavoidable, I'm around somebody who just is really negative and really grumpy all the time, I do I'll do the Cosmic Diamonds light bubble around myself on top of the maiden bubble. Yeah. So I think I learned about it in one of Diana Cooper's books. And she said it's Archangel Gabriel's Cosmic Diamond White Light. So I will do a golden bubble around myself every morning. And then if I know I'm going to be in a situation with a lot of crowds or grumpy people I can't avoid, I will call in the Cosmic White Diamond Light all around my field. And it's just, you just imagine everything just bounces off. You could call in mirrored light as well. I do that sometimes. To me, that's any energy that is negative or energy you don't want. It can't even see your bubble because the diamonds are sparkling.
Ooh, it's a distraction. Got you.
Yeah, it bounces right off. Yeah. Yeah. I do a lot of I also call on Archangel Michael for myself and my children every single day and just ask him to cut any energy cords that are not serving our highest good. And I gave my children little Archangel Michael coins. And I've told them specifically, if you have a bad dream, which often they're sleeping with me anyways, but if you have a bad dream or you're scared, call on Archangel Michael. He will be there in an instant. He is protector angel. So that's another practice we use.
We did that too. My kids are also highly sensitive, and it's one of those things from, they were able to see spirits and things like that, much like I do. And this has been a practice, and learning to navigate that with them and calling in those energies that are helping you, your guides that help you, the angels that can help you. So yeah, it's good to know that you've got a backup plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not alone.
I would have loved to have that as a child because I felt weird energy at night and I was always scared to go to sleep, and just knowing that you can call Archangel Michael by your side. He can hang out with you all night if you need it.
Exactly. And you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. Absolutely. Now we are going to go deeper into the different things that you offer in the future here. So your meditation practice, we're going to talk about that in another episode because I really know that you have a lot of knowledge and wealth inside of you that you can share with others to help them on their meditation practice path. So stay tuned, everybody, for that. And so for those that want to dive deeper into that in the future, right here now, before we have our podcast, where can they find you? Sorry, the dog's barking. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll pause it.
We'll pause. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start it again. Oh my goodness. It's our FedEx guy, so as soon as he leaves, she'll stop barking.
It's always middle of the day. They love to come to play middle of the day.
Always readings, always.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's funny. Okay, let's see. So for those who want to dive deeper into your meditation practice that you offer, how can they find you or follow you on social media?
They can find me. My website is themeditationmama.com. Social media is _meditation mama. And YouTube is also _meditation mama. And I would love to hear from you. So please reach out.
That's awesome. And we're going to be going into her meditation practice in a future episode, but I just want to make sure that they know where to find you now. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here on the podcast, and just keep a lookout for your future podcasts that you've got coming up. Tell us the name of that again that you have.
The Starseed Parenting Podcast, and I will go into all things raising 3 amazing little star seeds. I'll go into how they awakened me and all my tips, tricks, stories, and lessons.
That's wonderful. Oh, I'm looking forward to that, and that's coming this summer. So, yeah, you got a lot on the forefront there. Pretty cool.
I know.
Well, thanks again for sharing your tips. I know it's been short, but it's been sweet, and I know people will get some good advice from this. So, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll start. So hello, I wanted to introduce our fourth guest in this short story episode on empaths. Kaylie is an intuitive healer and storyteller with a passion for helping individuals rewrite their stories and embrace higher realities. Currently based in the Midwest, she weaves her intuitive insights with the art of storytelling to guide people on a transformative journey. Kaylie's warm and compassionate approach creates a safe space for deep healing and self-discovery, allowing her clients to unlock the new levels of awareness and joy. Welcome to the podcast, Kaylie.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here. And I know this is a short story one, but I definitely want to hear about how you found, this discovery of being an empath. When did you discover that, and what did it mean to you to discover that?
Yeah, that sounds like something I could talk about for hours and hours, if not days, but to give you the most condensed version, honestly, the discovery of being an empath and just so much about who and what I am really came through the birth of my children. I think that's a theme for a lot of people with highly sensitive children. You bring them into this world and you see their struggles, and then you identify ways that you are the same and that you may not have been supported as you were growing. So I have one child who is autistic and one who is ADHD, and I realized that I am the perfect combination of the two. And I know a lot of people don't, like those labels. And when I discovered that, I really grappled with them myself as well. But
Right.
the neurodivergent brain actually, or at least mine, really works well with labels, because then you identify who you are and how you fit in. So the important part to me, though, was, okay, I grasped these labels. This is how my brain works. But then deciding what that meant for me and how I was going to take on my own ownership of that. And that is where my whole aspect of retelling stories come from. It's really taking those identifiers that help us understand who we are, but then putting our own spin on it, reclaiming in our own way. I don't think it's a bad thing to use traditional labels, but that change up and retelling the story helps you kind of really step into your power of your identity and begin to unlock who you truly are. So yeah, I very much saw myself in my kids, had this huge realization of, I didn't realize this is what I've been trying to navigate my whole life, and this is why I didn't fit in with normal people. This is why I was so different. This is why I didn't belong. And that was just a huge unlock for me. And the whole reframe of that is something I've been working on the past 2 years, that I feel like I've just in the past few months really finally landed into, and in growing into my gifts and accepting that.
That's so nice. I'm sure very refreshing to kind of go, oh, wait a minute. Now everything's open and I can see it clearly and identify where I'm going with it.
Right.
I know a lot of people are seeking that in their life, and if we can take a combination of yeah, maybe there's labels, but you can also identify them with yourself and then become, your superpower.
Right,
Right?
exactly. And I truly, there's a lot of discussion about growing rates of neurodivergence, and it's something close to my heart because I really do believe they're superpowers. I really do believe it's growing and it's for a reason. We are sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
We are connecting to our gifts and our abilities and better communicating with the natural world around us. And I do believe these gifts that, sure, they make us struggle a bit more in traditional um, environments constructed by modern society, like bright lights and loud sounds. But when you're in nature, those aren't problems at all. Those are gifts to help you explore and connect and learn. And so I really do think it is this, push and development of our superpowers to come back into a more natural balance with our Earth, who is going through such a big shift right now. And so I believe us stepping into those powers as empaths, whether you want to call yourself neurodivergent or empath, whatever you identify as, it doesn't matter. But really owning those gifts, whatever they are, and stepping in is how we, connect with the earth and grow and find our true path in life and our power.
It reminds me, it's like you're holding space for Earth, in that way,
Yes.
and sensing her energy as she's changing and giving her freedom to do so. And by kind of being a little beacon for that energy yourself. But it can be overwhelming. And that's what, that's where people are finding themselves. So now you've talked a little bit about, how you've discovered this and how you've opened that up. How do you see yourself evolving more with this knowledge and growing more with it? What's your big vision there?
Yeah. My big vision, I guess to step back a bit, over the past several months, really kind of at the start of this year through just this week, I went through a really immense transformation and healing journey that allowed me to finally land down into my body. So a common thing that we talk about in the spiritual world is grounding and centering, and everybody's focused on make sure you ground and center. But I had this huge realization just this week. We're not supposed to have to consciously do that all of the time. We are supposed to inherently be grounded. We shouldn't have to work at it. We're supposed to just be there in our bodies, living this experience. That's what we're here to do right now. So landing into my body after this huge transformative journey over the past few months was really just the most magical thing I've ever experienced. And that is my big vision of helping others now do that. So I can go into a bit. I am actually in the process of writing a book. It's called Catching Wonder, and I do plan to release it online. Wonder. Yeah, I plan to release it online in July. So almost done there, but it really is, I say it's my story, and that means it's not an autobiography, but it is my story of this transformative journey channeled through my higher self to help others also find that path to landing in their bodies. And I see myself working with people on these journeys to really come into their bodies so that we know that constant groundedness, that constant centering, and just deep connection to Mother Earth that really allows us to own, as I said, our powers and gifts in the most just, intense and special way possible.
Love this. And I love that it seems like it just kind of flowed in for you. When you talk about, I started this and it just flowed right in, and it seems like to the, this eye looking from this side, that it was fluid and made it kind of easy. Now I know that that's not always the case. So how did it feel to just kind of let that flow in? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'd say, and while I started writing 3 weeks ago, the journey started about 8 weeks ago. Most of it did not feel easy. And I would say that, to others who wish to embark on this journey, it's not going to feel easy. You have to see a lot of things. You have to process so much in your body to release and really integrate it all together. So it's not easy. It's not horribly hard, but it's you have to be ready to feel. You have to be ready to heal. But going through it, it's on the other side of it, the most beautiful experience that I've ever had. And the ways I've grown as a person, as a friend, as a mother, just to me is out of this world. And it's something I'm so proud of myself for. That's something I've been seeking my whole life, somebody to be proud of me. And here I am finally proud of myself. So I'm really passionate about bringing that to other people. But yeah, as I was in this journey, about 3 weeks ago, suddenly I just started writing. Before that, I was writing poetry, which I do share on Instagram. But just all of a sudden, I was writing this book, and I told myself my whole life I wouldn't write a book because for some reason it seemed really stressful. But I think that's how you know the things that you think about, oh, I don't want to do that, might just be like a little nugget of information for you. And I just started writing, and it's channeled through my higher self. So it's more like remembering than really figuring it out. And that's what allowed it to flow so quickly. I anticipate being done this week so I can get it out there.
It's really inspirational. So I what you just said kind of hit home pretty heavy, you know, the things that you're resisting that are actually good for you, and that, you know, something that's good that you're resisting or could be good might just very well be something you might need to look at, reevaluate.
Yes,
so
that
that's
actually
cool.
has been, I'd say, one of my biggest lessons through this whole process. That thing that just makes you just like pause a little bit and clench, that maybe even makes you a little fearful and afraid. That's an invitation. That's something to step into and to look at, and really explore.
Great. Now, you mentioned your book, and you said it was going to be an online book. Do you have an idea of where it will be? And it'll be released in July, right?
Yes, it will be released in July. Actually, I was just today exploring options to get it out there, but I really just want to go with reach. To me, it's more about getting it out there than, you know, making money on it or anything like that. So I'm going to try to get it across, you know, all publishers I can. I'll probably start with Amazon since that's, you know, simplest and easiest for everybody. I feel that I'll be done writing July 4th. I don't want to make any promises yet, but hoping to get it out there then or very soon after.
It's very exciting. Well, and of course, listeners can follow you and on Instagram, right? To see when it is that you're releasing it. So what is your Instagram handle?
Yes, so I'm on Instagram as Artist and Storyteller. And that actually is going back to the labels and discovering my identity. I view myself artist, autist, and storyteller, that ADHD, that moving, spiraling brain. So that's my reframe and reclaim of my titles, if you will, what I choose to identify with. So you can find me on Instagram, where I share my poetry at Artist and Storyteller. And anything else I do in the future will be through that.
I look forward to hearing or reading your book, or hearing it, or all of the things. That's cool. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And one question that, you know, I've been asking each of our guests through this short story podcast is, what sort of tips can you give our listeners to help them navigate this life as an empath?
Yeah, actually, that's what just immediately comes to mind is something that's been a really small practice that I've integrated into my life, but that has been huge. I actually started studying Ayurveda this year. I intended to become an Ayurvedic practitioner, and then I started writing, and the rest is history. But the most central and impactful thing that I gleaned from that in my studies was protecting your senses. And I think it's important for everybody, every human. We create our realities. Our entire world is based on our senses. Probably like 90% of it we base on what we see, but, you know, it's what we hear, smell, taste, touch. So Ayurveda, which is, you know, about 5,000 years old, really ancient medical practice, they have 5 practices to protect each of those senses. So washing your eyes, clearing out your nose, scraping your tongue, brushing, cleansing your skin.
Thank you so much. This is a new practice for me to look into. I like it. Thank you for sharing, Kaylie. I really appreciate it. And I know that our guests are going to get some nuggets from you, and looking forward to hearing your journey in your book. So thank you so much. I wanted to thank you all for joining us on this short story podcast called Earth to Essence. And I do hope that everyone's advice and experiences reached you in different ways, and that you're able to take away some wonderful information. I know that I have. So Kaylie's interview got cut off at the end, and she wasn't able to completely go into what she was talking about the Ayurvedic practice. But I do encourage you to take a look into that for yourself and see how it resonates with you. Also, I look forward to sharing the interviews from our upcoming guests. They are very insightful, and it's all about the empath this season. So stay tuned.